All right, take us on to this rental crisis.
All right. Well,
great.
So nationally, rental vacancies are like at the lowest ever practically now.
Yeah.
And not that I watch the news, but I suspect if I turned it on, I'd probably see something about it mentioned in this time from here. We've got very little new supply coming on due to the impacts of interest rates and it just not being profitable for developers to build right now and the risk of builders and material costs and all the rest. Australia is in a very difficult position with this rental crisis with mass amounts of people coming into the country. And essentially, I'm not sure where they're actually putting them at this point now.
I have asked that question and I don't know where they're putting them. I actually don't
Are you
know
not a little bit tempted to go to the airport and just like follow some people and see what happens? I really am in a non-stalky way. I'm just like, all right, he's coming in the country. Where are you going?
We go.
There's no space, but you're going somewhere.
I might have been at the international airport yesterday morning and thought the exact same thing. And I was actually curious how many of them are actual immigrants coming across into Australia. Because I'm like, there's just a large quantity of people coming in.
Because it's something crazy, isn't it? I'm just going to do the maths on it really quickly here.
It'll be about 1,000 people a day if that's the maths you're going for.
Yeah, that's what I was literally going for. It's like, so there's like 1,000 people a day coming in that need a place to live. And I'm like, it's no surprise all the rental stock's drying up then.
Yeah, and this was the thing when and I've spoken about this before when I was thinking about the rental crisis. I'm like, there's just so many perceived cons for the property market, which are like, I always think of them as like 10, 20 kilo children. It's like, well, interest rates are up and like wage growth's not growing and you've got like borrowing capacities and like cash flow positive properties and all these things just like pulling on this rope. And then on the other side, you've just got immigration and dwelling shortages or like the supply versus demand as just like 1 200 kilo adult just on this one side of the tug of the pulling rope, just like leaning back. And it's just like, you just never win. The 10 kids will just never win. And so I found it interesting. The RBA came out with an announcement recently where they were talking about how rents and ultra low vacancies are actually going to continue smashing the tenants for years to come. And they were actually talking about how the rental households are more likely than the mortgagee households, so the people who have got mortgages, to experience financial stress, which means now you got a whole heap more people trying to buy up the houses for sale, which means there's less houses for rent because all of these property investors are like, hey, maybe now it's the right time for me to sell the property, which means it's not another rental property on the market. It's actually going to create a tougher problem. And so I was looking at this going, Charlie, how would I solve it? How would I sit there and look at, if I was in a political job, which I probably will never be in my lifetime, how would I try and swing the bat to solve this problem? And you and I have spoken about, well, maybe you just convert some old buildings, Charlie.
Should we go there? We've brainstormed this a little bit before.
I'm just going to go to Rialto and I'm just going to turn the Rialto in Melbourne into apartment buildings.
Doesn't work like that, Grant.
Why, Mr. Plumber?
Do you know, I never thought my plumbing apprenticeship would come in so handy as it is right now, but it has. So what a lot of people don't realize is when buildings are put together, a commercial building is built differently to one that is for residential use. And the main reason for that is drainage. So in an office building, have you ever noticed that like sometimes the toilets are in the same position on every floor near the center? And there's no like sinks like against the windows?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's to save the amount of room they need between each floor. Right, to allow for the water to fall, right? So if you started recalibrating all these buildings to be apartments, what you would actually find is they would have to knock out a lot of levels and redo all the floor heights to make a lot of them work. So it's not that simple to re-engineer a building or refurb a building in a way that may work. I mean, there's a few that may, like they might have very favorable
the
setups.
Old ones or something, yep.
Yeah, or there might be some that had extremely high ceilings in the offices and they could be reconverted. Or it might make sense to do like luxury apartments, right? Where it's like you just take up 2 floors and they're like really large apartments in some cases. But overwhelmingly, if you look at an office building today and say, let's turn this into apartments, it may not necessarily turn out to be the project people think it could be.
Well, because that was, funnily, I've heard people recommend that, and I thought that was logical until I talked to you about it. And I'm like, so turning all these empty office buildings into apartments is probably not going to work, or even if it does, it's probably not going to produce the volume that you're looking for that would actually try and resolve all these things.
And just to say context, I have worked on the high rises in Melbourne. Like I have done this. I have been in them and seen them. This isn't a guess.
This is someone who's actually done the thing.
Yeah, because when they build, they try and do it. They don't sit there and go, oh, maybe this will be an apartment building one day instead of offices. We better put that provision in. No, they are like, when they build something, it's like engineered for money. It's a capitalist play. Yeah. They're not putting provisions for anything in.
Yeah. It's more space to rent out is better.
More space between floors is expensive to create.
So then I came to the second one, which was, okay, well, maybe we're just going to build some more buildings, Charlie. Maybe the ideal outcome is just go high density. Like we become like those really big cities that just have skyscrapers and apartment buildings everywhere because you swing one bat and you knock out a couple hundred of apartments in one swing and we're good. I don't know if you've seen the building approvals recently, Charlie. They're not looking too good.
Well, not only that, right? How long it takes to do that. So even if they said, yes, let's do it now, that's years and years before that supply comes onto market. And man, Tim Gurnham, who if anyone is, although he probably builds in other states as well as Melbourne.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. There you go.
I think he built something in Queensland.
But he was expressing that some of his projects take 12 months just to plan, like just to get drawn up. And that's like, okay, so that's 12 months to draw them. What about the government bureaucracy? Getting the builders and quoting process? Like, there's a lot that goes into that, like from go to woe for a massive, let's say, in a big apartment building in the city. Like this can be a 5-year project. And
we've already seen supply chain challenges previously when we had these building booms come through, right? So we know that there is a finite supply that we can pull in. So then I sat there and I said, okay, well that potentially is a solution. It's just going to take a couple of years.
It's going to be part of the solution, yes.
Totally. And so then I said, okay, well maybe you go to your large developers like your Stocklands of the world and try and incentivize them to release some of their houses. So just build houses quicker because a lot of these sort of companies have got a lot of land locked up. They're just waiting to go and deploy and build on top of it. And I'm like, interest rates quite high. Building costs are extremely high. And these are capital-based companies. Like they actually try to make profits, Charlie. And so,
but even then, let's get deeper on that one. Pretend we subsidized it. We said, look, we'll give you, whatever your loss is, we'll give it to you. We'll cover it so you make the same thing.
Yep.
Have you considered where that land is?
I know where some of that land is. I did 6 months with Stockland as like a bit of a consulting into them. I know where it is. It's not what everyone wants.
If you actually go on realestate.com, there's plenty of houses available, just not in locations that people want to live or are convenient for working or appropriate dwelling.
All right, fellow property investor, if you loved the value from this short video and wanted to know more about how you can win at property investing, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now. Alternatively, click subscribe and you'll never miss another one of these videos.